I don't like plain chips. It would have to be like salt and vinegar, which would probably go well with lemonade. Let's go get some candy to eat with the lemonade. That might be a little too much sugar even for me back then. I want those little umbrellas to put in the drinks. Could we get the discount rolls for real? I'd like one of those bubble blowers. I'll take a yo-yo. I'm gonna get gum. I'm gonna support Derek's like lemonade idea. I don't want bubble blowers or a yo-yo or gum. I do like gum, but discount rolls don't really go with lemonade. Chips would make you more thirsty and would make you want to drink more lemonade. And I do like candy, but probably not with lemonade. I'm gonna get those little umbrellas to put in the drinks, which is gonna be less than $3, I would think. Excellent, Hark. You got to lead the way out of the toy aisle and back into the thick of the grocery store traffic. You wound around the aisles until you found the right spot. You took another minute to pick out the best little umbrellas, and then you were done. With items in hand, you, Derek, and Cove went through the checkout line. Derek dug out of his pocket change and paid for your odd arrangement of items. None of you bothered to get a bag. Derek's was already in one, and you and Cove could easily carry your own things on your own. That's right. Save some extra cents that would have gone towards the plastic bags. After I probably would have brought my own bags, disposable my own reusable bags. After a successful grocery trip, you returned to the great outdoors to walk back to the neighborhood. The kind of outing reminded you that it wasn't about what you were doing. What counted was who you were doing it with. Yeah. Outside, you gathered in front of the crosswalk and waited for a chance to get back on the main sidewalk. While standing around, it was unanimously decided that you'd bring your goods to Cove's house and make the lemonade there. Okay. You're home at the risk of Elizabeth deciding she wanted a pre-dinner snack. She wouldn't appreciate having a lemonade-making operation in the way. There was no worry of that at the Holden condo. Cove's mom and dad were out, and even if they weren't, they were his parents, not his bossy big siblings. They wouldn't even dream of throwing the three of you out of the kitchen to use it instead. Derek was thinking along similar lines based on what he said next. Honestly, man, I can't wrap my head around what it's like to not have any siblings hanging around the house at all. I don't mean that you're weird for that, just it's going to be so different.
Really?
Is it? I have my dad here. My mom is staying right now, too.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not the same. Parents take care of the kids, and the kids have a bunch of stuff they need. Every day has to be about me and my brothers. If we go out to eat, will everyone like the stuff there, or will George be too picky? Are we all old enough to do whatever the thing is, or is Nicholas too little? Yeah, I'm trying really hard. As a foodie, I always try to make it a rule for my kids. You don't have to like everything. If you try, all I ask is that you try it. You have to, don't knock it until you try it. Because you might be surprised. And even if you're not, at least I know that you know for sure that you didn't like it, instead of deciding right off the bat without trying that you didn't like it. So that's the thing. And the other thing is, if you don't finish the food that you do have for dinner, because I try to have options. I try to give my kids multiple options when it comes to food as much as possible. And if they decide that they don't want to eat any of it, then they go hungry. Then they don't eat anything. And they certainly can't eat something different. My son has definitely told me that he was full now. And I'm like, oh, you're full now? Okay. And then be like, can I have a cookie? And I'm like, no, because you're full. You told me you're full. So by definition, you cannot have a cookie because you're full. So, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna eat now. He's gonna eat. So yeah, that's the thing. I try not to force. I try really hard to encourage my kids to at least taste food. That's non-negotiable. Always taste it. But beyond that, I don't force them to eat more. But if they go hungry, that's what we have. That's what we have. That's what's available. That's what you either eat something that you don't particularly care for, or you go hungry. You tell me what you prefer. Like, those are your options. Those are your choices. Because sometimes, sometimes in life, you're not always going to be given exactly what you want. You're not. You're not going to be given exactly what you want. And sooner or later, you're going to have to learn to cope with that. You're going to have to deal. Life is not fair sometimes. Life is not fair sometimes. And, you kind of have to learn how to deal with it. And if the biggest problem that you have is that there's food in front of you that you would prefer not to eat or go hungry, then you're living a pretty darn good life. A pretty darn good life if that's like the biggest problem that you have in your life right now. But that's just my personal opinion. My birthday is the only time I can do everything that I want for the whole time, and I still choose to keep my bros in mind even though my parents don't make me.
It's okay.
I don't mind, but it's crazy imagining a world where I don't have to do that. I hadn't thought about that. Cove's eyes darted back and forth, and he bit the inside of his cheek. I guess having siblings or not changes how someone thinks. I figured people would be who they were no matter what, but maybe I wouldn't needed to be at least a little different if I had to share my parents and life all the time. I'm glad both of you who you are. I can relate to that, Derek. I wonder who I'd be without Elizabeth. I don't even want to imagine a world without Elizabeth. You quietly consider the topic. I'll say, I can relate to that, Derek. Elizabeth definitely has impacted my existence. Yeah, siblings do that. But the road was clear, so Derek got the conversation and his legs moving again. He started preparations by listing off what you'd need to go to gather when you made it back. Sugar, ideally some ice and really cold water, a pitcher, or something like that. Okay, so here's the thing. There is a secret to making, good lemonade. You do not need cold water. And this is why. So the secret to lemonade is that the flavor of lemonade does not... The secret to good flavored lemonade is not in the lemon juice. A lot of people think they can just squeeze lemon juice, mix that with cold water, and mix that with sugar, and you're done. Which is yes, you can make lemonade that way, but there's a bunch of problems with that. One, cold water doesn't dissolve sugar very well. It does eventually. Sugar will eventually dissolve in cold water, but it definitely dissolves way faster in hot water, number one. Number two, lemon juice does contain lemony flavor, but it also contains a lot of the sourness and tartness of the lemon. Which, yes, if you're drinking lemonade, you probably do enjoy the sour and tartness of lemons, but there's more to lemon flavor than the sourness of it. A lot of the flavor of lemons is in the lemon peel. It's in the lemon peel or the lemon zest. So, the best way to make lemonade is if you actually peel the peel of the lemons first, and then take those peels and stick them into the sugar. Okay? Stick them into the sugar. Why? Because through osmosis, middle school science, through osmosis, the sugar sucks out the oils from the lemon peel, which is where all of that lemony flavor comes from. That's why you use lemon zest in a lot of recipes, because it gives you the lemon flavor, which is in the oils of the lemon zest, without introducing too much of the sourness, because there isn't sourness or tartness in the lemon zest, but the lemon flavor is certainly in there. So you basically are infusing. The sugar pulls out the oil that's in the lemon peel and it infuses the sugar with this. You basically end up with lemon sugar. Yeah, which is delicious, actually, even by itself. So you've got the sugar with all the lemony oils. Now, what you can do is you can boil some water and then put the lemon sugar into the boiling water and let it dissolve. So now you've got the lemony flavor in the sugar. And I also throw the peels in too, because why not? I also throw the lemon peels in there too, just to help it steep a little bit with the water. Could I have just thrown the peels and the sugar in the boiling water without doing the extra step of having the sugar draw it from the oils? Maybe, but I feel like you'd get more bang for your buck. I feel like you would end up with more of that lemon oil essence if you have the sugar suck it out first. Because I feel like it would be easier for the water to acquire that through the dissolved sugar, than pulling it directly from the oil. I think. Like, if I know how the science of it works, I think that's how that works. So now, once you have the water that has dissolved all of that lemon sugar, now you can take the juice and then add the juice into the water to taste. You don't have to put all the juice in at once. You can put it in gradually, a little bit after a time, and then taste it and see if it reaches the tartness that you want. And then you stick that sucker in the fridge and let it chill and cool down. And then you can pour it over ice, and you've got like the perfect lemonade. So yes, you can do it the other way. Just mix lemon juice, sugar, and put that in cold water. But I guarantee you, it is not going to be nearly as good if you do it the other way that I explained. So maybe you all learned something from that. If you like lemonade, I encourage you to try that trick and let me know if you ended up noticing a difference. Whew. Sorry to go on that tangent, but I just wanted to. The foodie in me just felt like I had to give that tidbit of information. Do you have one of those lemon squeezers? We can do it by hand if we've gotta. With every object Derek recited, Cove nodded along plainly, but he was watching something off in the distance. His faraway thoughts made Derek's words reach him less and less until Derek noticed the lack of reaction. He called to Cove more loudly to catch his attention. Are you okay, dude? Oh. Cove blinked at as his brain snapped back into place in the center of his head. It's nothing. What were we talking about? Derek spun his lemon bag into a mini tornado by twisting it around tight from the bottom and then releasing it. He snickered. No worries, I was just making plans for making lemonade. Okay. The rest of the trip passed by comfortably. Derek carried the conversation, and Cove really paid attention from then on. I'm really wondering what Cove's thinking about right now. Once you'd arrived in your neighborhood and reached Cove's front door, the residents of the building opened it up without needing a key. It was already unlocked. Derek gasped upon seeing such a lack of security. Cove, however, was so relaxed and content that he yawned while going inside. That unknowingly cut off Derek's chance to question Cove about his choice not to lock the door. He simply followed his friend inside, and you did as well. Cove leisurely crossed his living room to drop his bag of water balloons on the coffee table for later. You left your little umbrellas there alongside it.
I'm on it.
All right. Derek went straight into the kitchen. He had his lemon bag over his shoulder like a gym pack and flipped it over to sit beside the sink. He slipped his thumbs through the holes of the mesh and tore it. Where's your colander? Cove paused, looked incredulously at the wall. Then he turned and projected his confusion across the counter toward the source of it.
What?
My what? Undeterred, Derek was quick to offer a phrase. A strainer. In the lower cabinet, the one on the left. Derek pressed his hands into the marble and leaned forward with a grin.
Thanks.
Thanks, Cove. I've never heard a strainer be called a colander in my life. I definitely have. I heard of it. It was introduced to me as a colander. I knew what a strainer was as well, but colander is what I knew it as originally. I can't believe you don't know what a colander is. You learn something new every day, huh, Cove? Oh, I totally knew what Derek was talking about. You watched The Two Boys in Amusement. I wouldn't have said this. I would say, oh yeah, I totally knew what Derek was talking about. Uh-huh. Then the spiky-haired chef ducked down and disappeared from your sight. If you could call someone who made lemonade a chef, that is. If you do it the way that I told you to do it, I would call you a lemonade chef. When he popped back into view, framed by the back wall and the support beams at the front of the kitchen, Derek was holding a silver strainer. Colander. He plopped into the sink, and it sharply clicked against the metal basin. Derek took the bag he'd set nearby and dumped every single lemon into the waiting container. He turned the faucet so he could clean the cheery fruits. The sound of running water added an extra layer of relaxation to the atmosphere. Cove stopped dawdling and joined the already hard-at-work Derek in the kitchen. He grabbed the cutting board and a large knife from an upper drawer. It was his... See, no. This is where Derek's mistake was. He should not have gotten a knife. He should have gotten a peeler first. Peel them lemons. Peel those lemons first. Use them in the sugar. Then, at the end, when you did everything else, then you chop them up and squeeze them. It was his house. It's okay. Like, Derek... I'll to be fair, I didn't know that was the thing when I was their age. To be fair. Which is why I'm going to make sure I teach my kids. I will teach my kids how to properly make lemonade. So if they ever decide to make a lemonade stand, if they ever decide to sell lemonade at a lemonade stand, it'll hopefully be like lemonade the entire neighborhood will be talking about. I hope so, at least. In my head. This is one of those aspirations as a parent. It was his house, and he'd wordlessly claimed responsibility for the riskiest part of making lemonade. Cove also directed you towards the sugar and a few other things. As it turned out, Mr. Holden didn't have an actual lemon squeezer, so you were going to be doing that by hand. He did have a perfectly crystal clear glass pitcher that he'd be perfect for the lemonade. The body of it was a completely round ball shape. It had a narrowed edge that pulled it at the top, with one side pinched into a spout. As far as you could tell, it'd never been used.
Hey.
Have you made lemonade before, Hark? Cove? Derek casually questioned both of you while he hefted the so-called colander up and down to shake off some of the water clinging to the freshly washed lemons. I make it all the time. I have, but only in the summer. I've done it a few times. Maybe. I don't remember. Nope, never. I'll say I have, but only in the summer. I've really made simple lemonade before, just for me. I'd squeeze one lemon into a glass of water and dump in a spoonful of sugar. It wasn't that great, but it was easy. Yeah. Wasn't that great, but easy. In my opinion, I don't think doing that way, as easy it is, in my opinion, this is the foodie in me, sometimes as when you do something that easy but with that low quality, it's not worth doing. It's not worth doing if it's that low quality. Like, at that point, just buy lemonade from the store. Almost at that point. Or just drink iced tea instead. I feel like if you're gonna have homemade lemonade, do it right, and it's going to be like well worth the investment, well worth the time. It doesn't take that long to do it the way that I did. Yes, Cove's way is faster, but if you're not gonna be satisfied by that lemonade anyway, like, don't waste your lemons and your water and your sugar. Just don't. Cool. Derek hummed while placing lemons on a clean kitchen towel. He took a fruit from the colander with his left hand, passed it over to his right, and placed them down at the while grabbing a new one.
Good.
I've made it before too. Fresh lemonade is so good. I'm excited for this. So am I. Your tools were all prepared now, so the team shifted to the actual creation of the traditional summer drink. Cove would cut the lemons into chunks. Derek gave Cove a tip to roll the lemons against the board before slicing them to get the juices going. So that is correct. That is correct. It is way easier, especially since they don't have a juicer, a lemon squeezer. It is way easier if you kind of knead roll the lemons before you slice them, so that they're much easier to squeeze. You and Derek worked hard together to squish the fruits. You squeezed the lemon parts over the pitcher itself, with smaller strainer blanch over the mouth of it to catch the seeds. Piece by piece, you crushed the thick peel into itself to pop the little snacks of juice into the fruit. The tips of your fingers began to wrinkle after a while. So here's the part where I disagree, because, you know, it's easier to regulate the amount of sourness if you pour the juice in a separate container. You pour the water in the pitcher first, and then you gradually add the lemon juice, and then taste. It's because that's like saying I'm gonna dump a whole bunch of salt into a pot and then add the water and then adjust. Because like it's way easier for you to add the salt to the water and to adjust than to put water into a pot with salt and then adjust, like compensate the water for however much salt you have. So that is one of the many things I would change from Derek's technique. But, it's okay. They're in middle school. It's okay. But slowly a murky liquid pooled at the bottom of the glass container. When enough fruits were chopped, Cove joined in the juicing effort. The three of you huddled around the counter together. You leaned over the one pitcher and strained to get everything you could out of the little yellow menaces while not accidentally squirting acid into anyone's eyes. The precariousness of the situation aside, Cove continued the conversation with a question of his own. Derek, you've made lemonade, but did you ever do the whole lemonade stand thing where you try to sell it to random people who pass by? If they're making lemonade like this, I would not sell it. Personally, I would not sell it if that was what they made. Oh yeah, it was a mess, and I think we'd only sold like 2 cups. Derek, stick with me. Stick with me, bruh. I will multiply your profits by times 10. Times 10. I am telling you. Nicholas kept drinking our supply, and George's efforts to stop him spilled even more of it. Plus, the 2 kids fighting over the lemonade jar probably scared people away from the stall. But it's not like I was expecting that to be some kind of entrepreneurial success. It was for Nico and George to have fun, and they did mostly. As usual, tales of Derek's endeavors as a big brother got Cove to chuckle. You were also smiling, even though your fingers had started to cramp after so much lemon compacting. Me and Elizabeth did that too. I never got to do that. It's not fair. I didn't ever try. I could never talk to strangers like that. Me and Elizabeth did that too. Lizzie took it very seriously. She shouted at every person who passed by, though there weren't many of those. You've seen our neighborhood. Almost no one comes here, and our moms wouldn't let us go all the way to the main street to set it up. Gotcha. Oh yeah, that's a problem. It wasn't all bad. We did have high success rates with the poor people who crossed our path. Lizzie would chase them down if they tried to pretend they didn't see her. But too bad for them, the lemonade we made was horrible. They got a really nice drink out of the annoyance, though. I have no idea if anyone really liked the drink, but at least they said it was good. I'm gonna say they got a really nice drink out of the annoyance, though. Derek was the one laughing then. He squeezed another chunk with a wink. Cool. That's impressive. It's a hard market out there. But man, all this business talk makes me think about how I only met either of you because my dad partnered with Cove's dad's business. If that hadn't happened, you probably wouldn't have ever learned I existed. You'd still know each other, obviously. Derek squeezed his 12th lemon chunk with a fittingly sour expression on his face. He'd accidentally made himself feel like a third wheel. In the cluster of human juicers, Derek was in the middle, yet he began to fade despite being right next to you. You and Cove looked at one another from over Derek's lowered head. Cove pushed himself to a smile through his concern while also giving Derek's arm a little nudge with his elbow. I worry about that kind of thing sometimes too. If my dad hadn't picked this street to move on, I wouldn't have met Hark. Not that would have been a huge loss for you, since you and I are not that close.
It's okay.
But my dad still would have had his business, so I still would have met you. Sheepishly, Derek pressed his shoulders up around his face. He managed a small smile. Yeah, it's rough for all of us. Where your parents live and what your parents do has to matter so much to everything. I mean, that is true. That's why we picked the neighborhood that we picked, because there's a ton of kids here that we can one day sell lemonade to. Derek bit his lips, unwilling to let himself continue to speak negatively. But, like a turtle coming out of his shell, Derek lifted himself off the counter and he rejoined you and Cove at his regular eye level. We did meet each other and we're friends. That's what counts. Exactly, what ifs don't make a difference because we're already here. We could have met another way somehow. That's 3 of us who worry about over things. I'm glad we got to meet. Soon we'll be old enough to decide everything for our lives. You smiled at Duke encouragingly. I'm gonna say, I'm glad we got to meet. So am I. Cove quietly watched over his friend, soothed by his uplifted mood. Then his lips parted as a pleasant thought came to mind. Hey, This is where I was standing when I first met you.
Right?
Oh, yeah! Derek bounced up on his shoes and tossed the lemon piece he'd been working on over to the trash can. It landed inside perfectly. No, not with that precious lime peel! Don't throw away the lime peel! That's the best part of the lemon! That is the key ingredient of lemonade! Don't just throw those away! Oh. But I was on the other side of the counter back then, and now I'm here in the kitchen with you. That caught your ear and you lifted one of your brows. You've never heard the details of what happened when Derek and Cove met for the first time. This I do want to know. You knew their parents started working together, and one day Derek was just there in the neighborhood hanging out with Cove, but that was it. Derek could recognize an intrigued audience when he saw one and did what he knew how to do. Tell the rest of the story. I can't wait. Mr. Holden invited my dad over for a meal at his house after their partnership was official. He talked about Cove before, when him and my dad were getting to know each other. You can't get away from hearing about Mr. Holden's top-notch son if you spend any time with him. Off to the side, Cove mumbled with embarrassment over what he clearly thought was an unnecessary addition. Derek laughed with the minor interruption off and went on. I like to tell stories too. And yeah, sometimes I do add unnecessary details. But I don't know. I try to make my stories charming. So, my dad suggested that I came too. Since we were the same age, Mr. Holden was apparently really into the idea. I had no idea what to expect from something like that. But I wanted to go to a sort of business dinner with my dad. It felt pretty cool to be invited. And then I went. Whatever I was imagining before I got there, Mr. Holden definitely wasn't it. I had thought my dad was casual for a professional business person, but Cove's dad takes the cake. A warmth came over Cove's expression, not the red-hot heat of fluster from before, but a gentleness that was based in his honest love for his parent. A lot of people don't expect Dad to be how he is. What did you think about me when you first met me, you know? Derek mindlessly scratched his damp hand against the back of his head. A stray lemon seed clung to one of the spikes of his hair. That's cute. You didn't want to cut the two off, so the little bit went unmentioned.
No way!
Plus, I'm sure it was really cute. Honestly, when I spotted you in the back of the kitchen, I thought Mr. Holden had another older kid he was hiding, because there was no way that guy was 13. You were so tall and fit, and you just stared at people. You seemed like a tough upper grade teen who'd never talk to somebody like me. You snickered under your breath. If you didn't know any better, you'd think he was describing Elizabeth. That's true. Having that description be assigned to Cove Holden of all people was hilarious. Cove was equally startled by Derek's choice of words. His eyes opened wide in amazement. You thought I was tough? Yeah, I did, but thought is definitely the right word for that. That instantly put Cove into a pouty mood. He pressed both his palms against the marble countertop, not bothering to squeeze another lemon. Cove didn't want to play anymore. Derek leaned his shoulder against Cove's side affectionately. He reached past him to the lemon slice Cove wasn't using and started to juice it himself. Sorry, there's nothing wrong with being a softie. I like that about you. Bringing Derek's statement to life, Cove visibly relaxed his stance. The tone of his voice was equally delicate. I guess it's not bad. No, it's not bad. It's great, Cove. Cove took a new piece of fruit and rejoined the lemonade-making efforts. Derek pinched an eye shut from the tension of crushing a chunk in his fist. He hesitantly continued the topic. So, what about me? When you first met me, what kind of impression did you get? This I want to hear. With much less force, Cove used both hands to work on his single lemon. He answered the question while staring off into space. That was likely the same expression Derek had seen the moment they'd met. The face he'd read as intimidating rather than easily distracted. I thought he probably liked sports. All three of you shook from laughter, bumping against each other with your closeness like a bunch of grapes on a vine rustling in the wind.
I get it.
Okay, Hark, your turn. What did you think about me when we met? I was thinking, oh my gosh, this kid is adorable. Adorably cute. Like, yeah. Oh, your mind drifted back to a few months ago, before summer vacation had begun. You'd stepped out of... Oh, this is good. I want to hear how I first met Derek, too. I love this. I love how this moment takes us to the other moment. You'd stepped out of your house late in the evening, and Cove was sitting on the curb with someone else. Someone you had never seen in your life, not ever in passing at school. And then it was just love at first sight, like the fireworks shown. It was like all of the pink, like, hearts and stars and horseshoes, clovers and balloons, pots of gold or rainbows, and the red balloons, I think. And blue moons. A green-eyed boy with a football jersey who was joking around lightheartedly with your longtime neighbor. You couldn't even guess where he had appeared from. It was like Cove had conjured up a friend through magic.